In the summer of 2008, my family and I were the victims of an errant Cheye County SWAT team. It was sort of the incident itself kind of grew out of a identity theft. My wife's identity was stolen by drug traffickers, and they used it to try to move drugs through FedEx. The police intercepted the drugs, and rather than catch the traffickers, they actually delivered it to our home and then sent a SWAT team in to retrieve it. So we had the experience of, I was getting ready for a community meeting, I was actually changing when they kicked in the door, immediately shot and killed our two black Labrador retrievers, and honestly terrorized my family sort of pretty brutally and with a lot of blood. Ultimately 4 hours later left, not having found anything incriminating on us, but left leaving us behind with a broken door, two enormous pools of blood, and our lives turned upside down. That process, though, in addition to obviously being sort of a victim, I am now and was then the mayor of my town, and so it was a moment where it didn't take long before it was clear to everyone that my family and I were innocent victims. And the community really rallied behind us. And honestly, it turned into one of those stories, for whatever reason, that becomes, a story of national attention and a whole lot of outrage, quite frankly, international in many cases. And it raised a lot of questions. But for all the harm to my family, emotional, mental, for the killing of my dogs, it never got over. The question I could never get over is, why was a SWAT team there anyway? Why are two people without any hint of a criminal record, any hint of violence, the subject of a paramilitary raid of their homes? Especially when they had done so little research prior to the incident that they didn't even know I was the mayor of the town when they went in the door. And those questions led to us working, to me and some other people working with the Maryland Senate and the legislature to develop a bill that focused on SWAT team reporting. It was the first of its kind in the nation that really gave a quantitative overview and a regular process for all law enforcement agencies and employee SWAT teams to provide data, both to the powers that be, but also to the public. And that process, which is a 5-year law and it sunset a couple of years ago, really showed us information for the first time about how common SWAT team deployments are. We didn't know that 1,600 to 1,700 times a year SWAT teams are deployed in the state of Maryland. We didn't know that over 90% of the time they're deployed for search warrants, not the sort of the high-risk barricade emergency situations that you would expect. And I don't think we understood that. When you deploy a SWAT team, nearly 70% of the time they're kicking in the door, regardless of the nature of the warrant. So that data was really helpful, and for the first time painted a picture of how SWAT teams have become routine when I think people expected them to be rare. And it also really established Maryland as a leader on the issue of militarization. I think in the recent years, in Ferguson and New York City and some other places where there's been some recent instances of police misconduct and some real concerns remain around the trust between law enforcement and the citizenry. I think Maryland had a framework to think about that because they moved this legislation 6 years ago. Unfortunately, though, the legislation, while it had a lot of positive effect in sort of shining the light on this, it actually had a lot of positive effect with the commanders, especially in the big jurisdictions that deploy SWAT teams. It served as a catalyst to get them talking, to talk about what our best practice is. And they've, I think, at the command level, have really come to appreciate this information and realize the need for minimum standards, best practices. So, but unfortunately, that same mindset I don't think has extended to the brass or the people at the higher ends. And so hopefully this legislation can put in a framework to really support the transparency, but to take it to the next level and create substandard. So before SWAT teams are deployed into our communities, we can make sure they're going in for good reasons, and the people who go in have the training and the knowledge and the experience to do what they do. Because there is a role for SWAT teams, but I just don't think it should be as common as it has become in a lot of law enforcement agencies, both in Maryland and around the country.